What's up, guys? I'm Des. This is Ryan. This is Chris. And welcome to the Up.
Welcome back, everybody.
Back.
It's a big weekend for us. College football is this Saturday. And so I'm hyped. I don't know about you guys.
Very hyped.
Yeah, so starting this week, we will be doing our week-to-week picks of some of the biggest college games each week. This week it's week 0, so you're not no huge ones, but it's enough to titillate the senses.
Ruffle the feathers.
Before we get into it, I just want to talk quick about our new website we created. It's called theupsports.com. You can go on there. You can rate your top 25 each week, and we'll do a consensus 25 for everyone who fills in a ballot, and that's called the Up 25. We combine all of them, and they come out every Wednesday at 2 p.m. It'll show the rankings, and we don't have to listen to that AP insert word. Nonetheless, let's get straight into it. First game of the year in Dublin, Ireland. We have TCU and North Carolina. North Carolina is coming off a rough year under year 2 with Bill Belichick. They look to rebound with a new OC, Bobby Petrino. And TCU is looking to kind of get back into it in the Big 12. They've been kind of out of it. They haven't been that marquee team. So they're looking to start the season off strong. Well, let's get right into it. TCU is a 7.5 point favorite in a neutral site. Chris, what is your thoughts on that game?
I'm honestly liking that. If I was betting on the game, I would definitely take TCU to cover. I don't think I've seen enough change or improvements from UNC to have any faith that they will have a different result from last year. I don't think it'll be as large of a loss for UNC. I think they'll definitely improve a little bit in a couple areas to help them, shrink the gap a little bit in the difference between them and other teams. And I think ultimately I have TCU winning this game by 10. I think that you're looking at a guy like Jaden Craig, transfer from Harvard into TCU. Very talented player, brings a lot of ability to that backfield for TCU, and I think it's going to be hard for UNC to stop him, and I think it's going to be, a lot of points are going to be scored for TCU in this game. So that's why I'm looking at more of a 10-point margin here for TCU to win. If I had to predict, I'm thinking somewhere around the 38-28, 31-21 type of game. But I think we'll see what UNC's defense can provide, and if they can try to stop him and keep that game close. But I'm looking at TCU as my favorite to win that game and by at least 2 scores.
Ryan, what are your thoughts going into this matchup?
I agree with Chris. I have TCU covering the spread. I think it's all going to come down to how North Carolina's defense plays. You have Bill Belichick, who was mostly known for having a pretty stout defense in New England, coming in, making that second year into the college level. I think it showed last year that he didn't bring as much talent in as we thought he did. It seemed like he had 2 or 3 quarterbacks last year that just battled for who wanted to sit the bench. And I think that you have new players and a new team around him that is probably yet to have an identity for themselves. Whereas you have TCU, you have a bunch of guys. You do have a new OC. You do have Sonny. What's his name again? Sonny Dykes, yeah. You still have him running the show there. So I think that's going to benefit TCU more than hurt them. So it will be interesting to see how TCU's new offense looks with the new OC. But I do believe that TCU is going to pick up right where they left off last year. And I think TCU takes this game I have them winning by 14.
I'd have to say I'm going in a little bit different direction. I do think TCU losing their quarterback, I believe Josh Hoover was a phenomenal quarterback. I believe that OC was very good. I think South Carolina is going to benefit him greatly. And I do think going into year 2 under a coach like Bill Belichick, and as much as I hate to say this, a very good OC like Bobby Petrino, it will help UNC to be in a lot closer games this year and really look a lot better than last year. I think the defense is going to pick up. I believe the offense is definitely going to pick up. Nonetheless, though, I do have TCU winning in a close one, 27-24 over UNC. So going into our next kind of big game of the week, it's NC State and Virginia. And if I'm not mistaken, while it is an ACC matchup, once again, it will not count as an ACC game. Or I'm not too sure with the 9-game ACC. It's still kind of a mess. So don't quote me on that. But nonetheless, Virginia is favored by 5.5. It is a conference game going into it, and it starts off the season going 0-1 in the ACC, which is something you don't want to do in any conference. So I think this is a big game. Chris, what are your thoughts going into it?
I do agree. I'm actually for week 0, most excited for this matchup. I think this is going to be probably one of the better games that we get for the week 0 of this upcoming weekend. I'm looking at Virginia, and I think ultimately they're trying to prove that last year wasn't a fluke, that they are on the rise, and that they are a team to look out for in the ACC. And I like some of the players that are brought into Virginia and what Tony Elliott's going to be able to do. I like Bo Prabula, who I think they announced as their starting quarterback. I think he adds an athletic element to that quarterback position for Virginia, and I think he's going to be able to make some plays in this game. It's going to be interesting to see if CJ Bailey is able to play, to the level that we've seen him play in the past. If he can kind of keep NC State in this game and allow them to continue scoring and make this a close game. Ultimately, I do think this will be a close matchup. I have Virginia pulling out the win. I think they're going to win somewhere around the 27-23 range. This is what I've predicted for this game. And I think we're going to have a really good matchup in this first non-conference but conference game of the year. So I'm excited for this one, and I'm really interested to see how this game plays out.
Just to fact check myself real quick, it is going to be a conference game due to the new 9-game ACC schedule.
Gotcha. So excited for the first conference game of the year.
Ryan, what are your thoughts going into this one?
This one was hard. With Bo under center in Virginia, I think he was really good last year for what we got to see from him. I do think what's going to hurt him is being on a whole new team and coming off that injury. I think we're going to see a lot of struggles offensively. So I'm leaning towards North Carolina State here because they have the returning quarterback. They have a guy that's already been in the system, a guy that understands what's happening, a guy who was able to build chemistry with his teammates throughout last year. And I think that's going to benefit NC State. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do have it as like a 24-27 win for NC State.
I do think Virginia is going into this game trying to prove that last year was not like a one-year wonder. And NC State has one of the better quarterbacks and more underrated quarterbacks in the nation and also in the ACC in CJ Bailey. Nonetheless, I think CJ Bailey, if he has one of those just phenomenal games where he plays to the fullest of his potential, NC State can win this one. But I do think with the loss of a lot of weapons around him, as well as a defense that they're not bad, but they're not above average either. They're kind of in that meh range. And for that, I think Virginia brings the consistency. They bring in a seasoned SEC quarterback who's willing to fit into Tony Elliott's system on a team that just went to the ACC championship. No matter how much you may not think they're as talented, I do have Virginia winning 31-17 because I believe CJ Bailey would need those weapons around him.
I like it.
Now going into a game that maybe is a little bit more lopsided, we have USC, Southern Cal, playing against San Jose State. USC is a 38.5-point favorite. Chris, what are you looking forward to in that game?
I mean, obviously, we know who's going to win this game. This is more of looking at what USC is bringing to the table in 2026. I mean, we know that their offense is usually going to be something to look out for. I think USC, with Jade Mayaba, they're going to bring a high-powered offense. They're going to bring something that people have to look out for each time they match up with USC and what Lincoln Riley's going to draw up for them. They did lose a few weapons on the offensive side of the football for Jada Mayaba, but knowing what Lincoln Riley's able to do, he's going to bring in guys that can kind of fill in that role usually pretty easily. I'm looking more for the defense of USC. Is that defense going to be able to step up and play at a high level for them to be able to contend and win the important games for 2026? I'm looking at true freshman Luke Waffle. Guy is an absolute monster. He was a monster all throughout high school. I was really hoping Ohio State would be able to get him, but I've heard nothing but good things about him so far this year. And I think he is going to be a fearsome player coming off the edge for USC, and I think he can really add a new element to their defense. So I'm looking for that position, looking at that side of the ball for USC, seeing what Lincoln Riley's able to do on the defensive side of the ball this year, and mostly what kind of team are we going to get from USC? Is it offense heavy, or is it going to be a little bit more balanced? So that's what I'm looking for in this game. But I have USC winning, covering the spread. I think they'll be winning somewhere around 52-10, 52-7.
Ryan, what are your thoughts going into this lopsided game?
I do have USC winning. I think this is the game where USC really gets to find their identity and who they're going to be this year. I don't expect them to have a high-powered defense, but more so just a team that can put up points on the scoreboard. I do think, though, that this is a game where USC is going to have to figure things out. I don't think they're going to struggle, but I could see a couple hiccups every now and again in a drive or so. and I think that's going to be able to work in San Jose's advantage. And for that reason, I think San Jose is going to be able to cover the spread in a game where I think it'll be probably around 40-10, 40-12, or something like that.
I couldn't agree more, Ryan. I do think USC is going to go into this game. It's the first game of the year. They are a top 25 team. They kind of going in knowing we're going to win, right? And I'd be shocked if they don't. I do think that they are going to kind of get out to an early lead, and you're going to start pulling the starters. You're going to start kind of trying some, maybe not new things, but trying some unfamiliar things or some things that have kinks that need to be worked out. So because of that, I do have USC not covering, but I have them winning 41-10 as well. And going into our fourth game that we'll be covering this week, I think my favorite, because I am excited about both these teams, it's UNLV and Memphis. These are two group of 5 teams that potentially could be sleepers going into the college football playoffs, as we know that one of them will get an auto bid. So I really want to see what Dan Mullen is bringing into his second year of UNLV and what Memphis's coach is bringing into his first year. Chris, what are your thoughts going into this one?
This is going to be a good one. I mean, we're getting the battle of the transfer quarterbacks for this matchup. You got Aaron Nolan for Memphis, who might be. I don't know if he's the starter. I don't know if he's going to be playing. I haven't really heard on that end. And I do know UNLV has brought in Alex Orji and Jackson Arnold. So let's see. I've seen some flashy plays from Orji in some of the highlights on Instagram, but I think ultimately it'll be Arnold leading the way for UNLV. And I think that UNLV under Dan Mullen, they're going to be able to win this game. I think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be a runaway for either side. But I'm looking at both of these quarterbacks, both sides. Can they establish themselves? Can they prove that they do belong as a starting quarterback in college football? And what they're able to do in a pressure game, because I think this will be a very high-stakes pressure game coming down the stretch. And I do believe UNLV will win this game in a close one. I'm looking at 30-27 final. UNLV takes the win.
Nice. Ryan, what are your thoughts going into this matchup?
I think this is going to be a very run-heavy game for Memphis. If Aaron Noland is anything like what he looked at USC when he was there, I don't imagine the air game is going to be something that we see a lot of from Memphis. I think that UNLV with Jackson Arnold and Dan Mullen, that offense, I think, can put up points on the board. So it's all going to come down to if UNLV's defense can make stops, which I think they will. So I have UNLV winning 35-17.
I do think going into your first game as a new head coach, Charles Huff will be the head coach of Memphis with a quarterback who hasn't had many reps, if any at all, in a college football landscape, going against a seasoned coach in Dan Mullen who's had SEC coaching experience. I can't say success, but definitely a lot of experience from Mississippi State to Florida, and now he's over building something in UNLV. I think Jackson Arnold or Alex Orji are both ready to play, regardless of who gets the starting nod. And I do have UNLV handling Memphis 38-17. So as you may have seen in college football news, or really just if you follow any type of sporting news at all, we have seen kind of, for lack of a better word, the scandals and issues coming out of LSU in terms of them going back and taking players who were undrafted and then signed with an NFL team and then were cut with the NFL team before the NFL season has started. And so my question to you is, should a player who has already signed with an NFL organization be able to come back and play college football? Chris?
Absolutely not. I think it kind of it's ruining the game of college football. Luckily, I do believe that the Big Ten and the SEC just put a rule in today that bans any NFL players from coming back to college. That's across the board, or any professional players coming back to college. SEC, I believe, just passed it moments ago. So I hate it. I think it's terrible for the game. I don't think it should be allowed. I think, how are you going to tell a kid that he's going to come in and have an opportunity to play for a spot? Let's say that he's contending, he's the number 2 guy, he's there, and, your team goes out and brings in a guy from last year's team who went to the NFL, didn't make the team, and now he's coming back, and now your spot's gone, and you've worked all year, especially if you enrolled early for absolutely nothing. So I don't like it. I don't think it's healthy for the sport. I think once you take that step and make that decision to move on, that is your decision and you need to stay there. I don't think you should be allowed to come back. And it's prolonging the time for these players to stay in college football. They've already started doing it with having these guys be 7th and 8th year guys. And I just don't think it's good for football. And I think we need to, kind of expedite just getting guys out of here who have been here a while and have made the decision to move on and let it be. And I'm glad that they're passing these rules and not allowing it. I think that's good, and I'm glad to see both these conferences make the right call and make the right decision.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm right there with Chris. I think it's honestly pathetic for the NCAA to even come up with something like that. I think if you look at a grown 24, 25-year-old man that's playing in his 6th year or a 7th year or whatever, and you line him up with somebody right out of high school. A lot of these kids actually forego their senior season in high school to go to college, so they're going in at 17 years old. If you put them up against a linebacker who's been sitting there building muscle for like 6 years, you have a huge advantage for those older guys. And I think that when you get them in a NFL training program where they're able to even put on more muscle and get even more jacked up, and then you throw them back in college, there's going to be a huge competitive disadvantage for all the college kids that are already there. I mean, think about that kid who just spent all summer and spring fighting for that starting spot, and then you're going to have an NFL player just come and take it instantly. But I think it's embarrassing that the NCAA would even let that happen, and the fact that conferences have to make rules in place because the NCAA can't do their job is just totally embarrassing. And honestly, it doesn't surprise me that the one person we saw target these NFL players was Lane Kiffin. If anyone's going to use the NCAA, it's going to be him.
Yeah,
But
that's garbage. All he's going to do is use and abuse, man.
Yeah, I think
What about you,
when
Des?
when the NCAA rolled out NIL, and by rolled out, let me use a better word. When they threw NIL in there was no enforceable rules, and it quite literally it helped college football because it was something that was needed, but it also hurt it because instead of staggering it or putting enforceable rules and guidelines into it, it became a free-for-all, and then it was like trying to wrangle in a bunch of wild cat. And so now we're paying the price for it here now, 6 years later, 5 years later, because now we're trying to, okay, well, that doesn't seem right. You can't do that. Well, you can't do that. But it wasn't explicitly said, 4 or 5 years ago when it should have been rolled out in periods, in sets. Instead, it was just thrown out there. NIL, players are getting paid. Well, now you can do this. Well, if we can do this, if they're getting paid already and they go to the pros, well, it's basically the same as college. They can just come right back. And that causes a whole mess. And the NCAA has lost all hold on college football. I think college football power should be going to the conferences or some type of organization because the NCAA has lost complete control. Because even now, it's getting controlled, not by the NCAA. Their hands are tied. They know they can't do anything. Everyone knows they can't do anything. And that kind of pivots it into the next question. Is Lane Kiffin wrong for taking advantage of it? I got to say, kind of. He knows what he's doing. He knows it's not right. He knows he's going to get slapped on the wrist. And he's not doing it to be, I'm just trying to prove a point. Lane Kiffin's going to be Lane Kiffin, right? Your Brian Kellys, your Lane Kiffins are going to be Lane Kiffins. And that's on the NCAA for leaving that door open. Because realistically, I can't fully say he's completely wrong. Because when you have that advantage, and at that moment, there was no rules really against that advantage, or there was loopholes around that advantage, are you going to blame the guy taking advantage of it? Maybe a little bit. But you also got to blame the people that are supposed to be enforcing the rules.
He's just following the tradition of the SEC. They've all done that. They've been doing it since the beginning of time.
Don't forget, Ryan Day is on record in saying that he is willing to do that as well. He did say he didn't like it
until they passed the rule.
He did say he didn't like it, but he said if it needs to be done.
Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, of course, because if everybody else is doing it,
who wouldn't want an NFL player on their team?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, if we're going to let Lane Kiffin do it, then I'm going to do it because I'm not going to let him take an advantage on me.
I totally agree. And I think it's a good thing
Lane Kiffin knew
good
and well that...
finish your statement. I think I totally agree with that.
I think Lane Kiffin knew good and well that those players weren't going to actually be able to play. So I think he went and got it to also prove how broken the system is. I think there's no way in the world that Lane Kiffin actually was like, I'm going to get all these guys and I'm just going to start a whole solid defense from NFL players.
I think he definitely did. I think if
so.
it doesn't say it explicitly that it's like, where's the forward thinking for who is in the NCAA? Like, are we not going to sit here and actually look ahead in the future and say, okay, what problems could arise in the system that we've created and that we have right now? Can we get a team together to say, okay, what can happen that would be a no-go that we don't want to happen within the NCAA? Where is that? It's like, oh, we're just figuring it out as it happens. Like, crap, that shouldn't have happened. Don't know how we missed that. Oh no, now these guys are getting more money, or these guys are staying 8 years. These guys are coming back from the NFL. What's next? I mean, are you going to say, all right, as long as you're under the age of 30 and you're in the NFL, you can come on back to college football for one season and get paid for it on a lease, because a college football team can lease an NFL player now and then go back to the NFL. Like, what are we doing? Why is there no forward thought? That's the issue. And I think Lane Kiffin he's the type of guy, we already know who he is. He's going to take advantage of every single possible thing that he can, and he's going to abuse it. And he's going to get mad and upset when it doesn't go his way. Because if they take this NFL player from him, he's going to get on the stage and he's going to say, this shouldn't be allowed. This is BS. He's on our team. This wasn't passed until afterwards. So if they do anything he's going to be the first one to cry and scream about it, because it should have been his player and it should have been allowed.
I would fully agree with him. If he's going to sit there and cry about it, I would too, because if you're going to make a rule like that and then you're going to take advantage of that rule and then they're already say, whoa, you can't do that. Well, it's the NCAA's fault. They're the one that made the rule. Now you're trying to go back on it. But honestly, those players right now, if there was no such thing as NIL, those guys aren't returning to college if they're not getting paid. If you didn't come back to LSU for money, those guys aren't leaving the Browns. They're not leaving the Ravens. They're not leaving whatever teams they're coming back to go play for LSU. It's all around money. That's all it is. You can why go and play on the practice squad for $100K a year when you can go back to LSU and make like $2.2 million, especially now that you're an NFL player? Your value is going to go up even more.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think NIL
I'm getting hot.
and a lack of rules and regulations have caused college football to, I don't want to say spiral, but it's running buck wild, and someone needs to control it.
It's weird because college football is falling apart, but at the same time, it has become so much better in terms of parity and what we've always wanted from college football. We wanted more teams to have opportunities to win and step up and make it more competitive, and we are seeing that in this new era of college football. We are seeing new teams, new faces come up, play better football. So it's like a double-edged sword, man. We're getting two sides of it, and while it's bad, it's also brought some good to us. So I don't know, man. It's hard to evaluate NIL. Obviously, you could try to regulate it, but ultimately, I feel like you're going to have to just accept it for what it is, understand there are going to be issues with it, but ultimately it does give us the best version of college football I think we've had since we've all been alive.
I agree. I think last episode I mentioned growing pains, and we're going to keep seeing them for years and years to come. But, we're growing. College football is the best it's been, I think, ever. So can't wait to see what the future stores.
Absolutely.
But enough of college. NFL starts in a few short weeks. Preseason has been in full swing, and we really haven't touched on our kind of NFL predictions in a while. A lot has changed, a lot has stayed the same, but nonetheless, we're going to go through each division, kind of give who do we think we're going to win, and like a short little overview of what we expect from each division in the NFL. I think first we're going to hop right into it to a very interesting and mixed division, and that would be the AFC East. I think we're going to kind of go to our AFC East analyst over here, Ryan. And what is your kind of insight going into the season for those 4 teams? Who do you think wins? What are some teams to watch? And then what's the kind of quick storyline that you can see going into that year?
I think you're going to see my glorious king right here regain the AFC East this year. I don't think there's much competition. I think the only people I'm really worried about are the Patriots, but I've never really thought of them as competition ever since Brady left. They won last year because of an easy schedule. So this year I'm expecting Bills at 1, Patriots at 2, And then you'll have Jets at 3 with the Dolphins at 4, ultimately clinching the number 1 overall pick next year because I feel bad for HN. He's the only weapon that they have. But that's I think you're going to
Chris,
watch.
what's your insight going into?
Yeah.
Obviously, I do agree. I think that you look at the AFC East, you see two of the better teams in the NFL, and then two of the worst teams in the NFL in that division. And I do think that Buffalo is the best team in the AFC East, even though the Patriots had just made it to the Super Bowl. I think all around, if I had to put them both against each other, I have more faith in Buffalo coming out with the win. Granted, that is to be determined on how good of a coach is Joe Brady. We have to see how he can be the head coach of Buffalo, and can he get them over the hump that they've been trying to get over for quite some time. I do think Vrabel is the better coach in the AFC East. I think that he brings an element of winning, and he knows how to get it done. Obviously, he did it last year, easy schedule or not. He did make it all the way to the Super Bowl, and that's not an easy task in the NFL. So I look at those two teams. I kind of have them interchangeable at that top spot. I think you can see both of them taking the top slot in the AFC East and potentially winning the AFC altogether. And as for the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins, this is just two teams, two franchises that I don't see having any success anytime soon. I do agree with Ryan. I think Miami will ultimately have the number 1 pick going into next year's draft, where they are likely to take a weapon in Jeremiah Smith to help out that offense. So we shall see. That's kind of how I have it laid out. I think one and one is interchangeable, and the rest is Jets, and then I have the Dolphins at the last.
I take my reaction back. I
agree.
just thought of a genius idea because if they take Jeremiah Smith at 1, that quarterback class is loaded. They can get somebody in the second round.
Yep, and I mean Jeremiah's from Miami. It just makes sense. It makes sense. He could go home to Miami, and they do need a receiver.
Yep,
They need a whole lot more than just a receiver. I think, like you guys touched on, it's Patriots or Bills, and I really think the big storyline I'm looking forward to is how those teams start. How do the Bills start with Joe Brady? Do they not skip a beat? Are they better? Is there a lot to kind of build up? He's been in that organization. They're in a new stadium. It feels new. And for that reason, I think I'm going to give the Bills that edge. I think a lot of times having that refresh on a team that's kind of stayed for the most part the same is going to be very, very helpful. I think Joe Brady is a great coach. I do think Vrabel is better, and I think Sean McDermott was better than both of them, but that's another story for another time. I do.
I mean,
I think
Vrabel in 1 year went to more Super Bowls than Sean McDermott ever went to.
He's more seasoned.
Product of easy schedule.
More seasoned. Vrabel was a head coach for a while for Tennessee.
He's had success for a longer time. Sorry.
Vrabel took the Titans to the AFC Championship.
And McDermott took the Bills to the AFC Championship year after year. They were the top team year after year. They're a top 3 every stinking year. And we're going to see if they do it with Brady.
I think you're looking at doing
After
more with
18
less,
years of never touching
more
playoffs.
with less.
We'll see. But I'm not going to say Joe Brady's better than Sean McDermott. Not yet.
I'm not worried.
So I think that's something I want to see. But ultimately, I do have the Bills winning the division and the Patriots as a close second.
I'll tell you, our offense from our backups in preseason look more like scary than some of these other offenses. Like, give me Kyle Allen over anybody at Minnesota.
I don't know about that.
Now
over 9 for sure.
Chill, he didn't even throw an interception this week.
I wouldn't let him touch a ball.
What's next?
Shit, I wouldn't let him touch his own balls. Next, the AFC North. I think the AFC North is a very interesting division. Teams a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty. So, Chris, what's your thoughts going into that one?
This division's always a toss-up. You never really know who's going to come out on top, except you do know it's not going to be Cleveland. Cleveland's not going to be fighting for anything down the stretch this season. They will be at the bottom. That's one thing that we can put definitely in its place. I think you're going to have a 3-way battle for that top spot, usually what you see. But I do have a lot of faith in Cincinnati going into this year. I think this is the year where they get back to where they were in Joe Burrow's sophomore season. I think that if that defense can have any kind of pulse, any kind of fight in them this year, that allows Burrow and that offense to score points and not have to put up 40 plus to win football games, that they have a legitimate chance to be that force again. So I like Cincinnati. I think they're going to put it all together. Joe Burrow knows that this is the season to do it. I think that offensive line is more prepared to protect him this year. And I think they're going to put up a better performance for him for the year that allows that team to find their rhythm, win games that they should win. And I think that they're more motivated than ever to get that spot. I do still like Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I think those are two teams that can go out and win games, win tough, gritty games. But when it comes to that division, who's going to come out on top? I like Cincinnati. They're my favorite. And I'm going to go Cincinnati, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. But I do think Pittsburgh and Baltimore could easily be interchangeable. Those two teams are going to be going at it all year for that second spot.
I love it. Ryan, what are your thoughts going into the AFC?
I'm actually to go a different direction. I do believe that the Bengals have potential to be good. My only issue is that we haven't seen Joe Burrow play healthy football in a little bit. You have a Bengals team that's only won 9 games once in the past 6 years. And if I'm correct, Zach Taylor's still the head coach, right? Yeah, that's the problem. Any coach in the NFL that's not winning more than 9 games should not be in that position. So I don't think the Bengals are going to have a good year, and I think that they should probably look for a coaching change. And I think a great name that is out there right now that they should target in the offseason is Sean McDermott. And I think once they get that issue solved out, I think we can possibly see Joe Burrow back to what we thought he was going to be, and that Bengals team that we think can be good. And until that happens, I have the Ravens dominating their division and winning, with Steelers coming in third because for the last 4 years since he was on the Jets, no one's scared of Aaron Rodgers. So I don't see him making a push. I see Steelers, like always, going 8-9 or 9-8. And then you have the Browns with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, he's not going to be there for long because they're going to probably lose 2 games and then Shador will take over. But that's where I think they're going to stand. Browns on the bottom, Ravens on top.
I also think I kind of agree with Chris here. I think that Joe Burrow, if he remains healthy, he is going to have a very good year, but I think that's a huge if. I think he has the pieces. I think if the defense can give him something, and that O-line can give him something, that Burrow is going to have a great year, but the big if is, can he stay healthy? And I think it really hinges on that. I think if he can't stay healthy for another year, like Ryan said, it might be time to move on. Move on from Zach Taylor. Move on from Burrow, because as good as a quarterback is, it's not worth anything if he can't play. I think Lamar and the Ravens, they bring the same thing each year. I think they'll be a double-digit win team. And I think the Steelers are going to be shortly behind. I think Rodgers he's at the end of his career. We're going to see what he has left. It's not completely dried out yet, but it's getting there. And I think a big storyline it's kind of a hidden storyline. It's going to be that backup spot in Pittsburgh. I've been kind of eyeing it. I've been kind of waiting to see if who's taking it. Is it Will Howard? Is it Drew Aller?
Drew Aller's looked pretty good.
Drew Aller. So I think that
Will
is
Howard's
going to be
gone, man.
I think it's going to be a storyline because I do think sometime early in this season, Rodgers is going to be out or something the third. It's that. And then going to the Browns, I am a lack of words. What a just terrible organization. What are you doing? It's hilarious that you got a guy who goes out, poorly performs. The city hates him. He reciprocates that hate back to the city. Then he gets the starting position. Then he comes out and goes, I'm sorry. It's just a mess. It really is a mess. The Browns are kind of a no factor. And the biggest story for them is just going to be what kind of joke it's just going to be. They're going to be a joke all year. So I got the Bengals winning that division. Go into a very interesting one, if I do say so myself, the AFC South. I think there's 4 teams with 4 very different storylines. Chris, what are your thoughts?
The AFC South is probably the best it's going to be in a while, or best it's been in a while. There's a lot of more talent in this division. Usually it's kind of been the laughingstock of the NFL, but lately it's gotten a lot better, and it's only continuing to improve. And I'm high on this division coming into this season. I do believe that looking at this, you have the top 2 teams in Jacksonville from coming in off of last season, and Houston as well. When you analyze this division, your eyes immediately go to the Houston Texans. I mean, this is priming to be, without question, one of the best defenses in the league, if not one of the best defenses we've seen in a long time, just with what DeMeco Ryans is able to do, what kind of players they have on this team, and the monsters that they are creating and these young guys. I mean, you have Jalen Petrie, you have Lassiter, you have Daniil Hunter, you have Will Anderson Jr. You have Derek Stingley. I mean, you have stars all along that defense, and they are only getting better each year under D'Amico. And then if that offense can find its form, can find its rhythm with C.J. Stroud getting back, trying to improve from last year's mistakes. I mean, they're a team that's kind of not been great on both sides of the ball yet, and they continue to make the playoffs and win in the playoffs. So if this is a team that's able to balance it out on both sides, play at just the same high level on each side of the ball, this is a team that's very scary and could easily walk to the Super Bowl this year. So I'm very, very high on Houston, especially with the recent trade that they just made for Kayshon Boutte. I think that's a great piece they add to the offense in the absence of Jaden Higgins, who just tore his ACL. So I'm very, very high on Houston. I love my Jaguars. I do. I don't think they did enough in the offseason to push them over the edge and to say that they're going to be a force this year. I have them somewhere around the 10-7, 9-8, 8-9 mark. Pretty average, but still decent for a Jacksonville Jaguars season. But I'm going to lay this out with the Houston Texans finishing first in this division. I have the Indianapolis Colts narrowing out the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have the Jaguars falling back just a little bit for more likely an 8-9 season at the 3 spot, and then I will have the Titans they have some newcomers, they have some good players, good pieces coming up. I don't think they're ready yet. I have them finishing 4th in the division, and that's how I see the AFC South playing.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on the AFC South?
I agree with Chris. I think the Texans have a lot of talent on defense, and I think that's going to help them. I also think that Jacksonville also did not do enough in the offseason to make me think that they have a shot at winning the division. The Colts, Daniel Jones will be healthy. Jonathan Taylor, if he's doing what he was doing last year, I don't see why they can't make a shot at it. I think they're a dark horse to win that division. And then the Titans, I think they do have the pieces that they need. I think they're only going to get better year after year for the next couple years. I do agree with Chris. I do not think they are there yet, but I don't think it's as far off as some people might think. I think that there's a chance the Titans could probably win 9 games this year. But I do have the Texans winning the division. I think there is a really good shot that the Colts could edge them out towards the end of the season and win. But as of right now, I'm sticking with the Texans. Then I have the Colts, I have the Jaguars, and I have the Titans, who are not far off from 3rd or 2nd place.
I'd have to agree with you guys about the Jaguars. I think Liam Cohen's first year was great, but you're looking at it and you just don't see any progression. And maybe they come out and surprise people this season, but I just don't think so. It seems like they've taken a step back. It seems like the Titans have a great young core, and they will be very good if they can build around it over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But I want to say the Colts are really kind of they're quietly one of the better teams in the NFL. I think Jonathan Taylor's a premier running back. I think behind a solid O-line, Daniel Jones can be a very sufficient and good quarterback. And so if you were to ask me who's winning the AFC South, I would tell you still the Houston Texans undoubtedly. The defense is beyond elite. It is the best defense in the NFL. And I think that offense is showing that they're going to build on that season. I think C.J. Stroud, especially towards the end, he was feeling the pressure, young, inexperienced, maybe, who knows. So he just didn't perform to his best ability. But I think in the preseason, they've shown great lengths of strides offensively. I think the addition of Kayshon Boutte, I can never pronounce his name right. I think he's going to help C.J. Stroud greatly on that offense. And I think the big question to how far the Texans go is going to be dependent on that offense. Because we know what the defense brings. We know how good they are and how much they can affect the other team. It's going to be, can the offense put points on the board to allow that defense to really strive? So my pick's going to be Houston Texans at the 1. I think the Colts finish 2nd. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars take a step back. And the Titans, even though they're at 4, they do take a very big step forward. So now we're going to go into the AFC West. I think this division has a lot of questions, and a lot of these teams, they have upsides, but they also have very, very prominent downsides that we have seen over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Ryan, what is your thoughts going into this division?
I think you see a Chiefs team that's not going to have Mahomes in the backfield come the first 2 months, maybe 3 months. I think that's going to hurt them more than it will help them. I do think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be able to take over and win a couple of games, but am I wrong?
Nussmeier?
Yeah.
That's not the quarterback, too.
It's going to be. What?
It's not. It's definitely Fields.
What?
They didn't sign Fields for no reason. He's their backup. He's literally been their backup. What source do you have?
Bro, I've seen him play in preseason, and I think
Trust me, bro.
I'm not saying come week 1 he's going to start, but I think Fields is going to have a short leash. I think you're going to see Nussmeier come in and take over. But that being said, I think there is not really much competition at the top of that. I think you're going to have Oakland stay towards the bottom. I can't see Oakland jumping, and I think the Chargers are going to win the division.
I love it.
I will. Oh, you going, Des?
Yeah, I think going into it, there are a lot of questions in Kansas City. I think there are a lot of questions in Oakland, as well as
Why are we saying Oakland?
There are a lot of questions in Vegas. Vegas, Oakland, it's all the same thing. I think the real thing is the Broncos, they had great success last year, and can they replicate it? Can they come out there? Can they win those games again in the very close games? And can Bo Nix take a step forward? My guess is no. I think he does take a step back. I think there was a handful of games last year where the Broncos, they kind of kept in it, and then they willed their way back into it. More of the other team kind of let them back in. I think they won a lot of games they shouldn't have won. They've got a lot of breaks that they were kind of on the luckier side. So going into it, I'm going to take the Chargers to win this division. I am a Mike McDaniels fan. I do think him at the OC with Justin Herbert is maybe. I do think it's going to tap a lot of that untapped potential in Herbert. And I do love Harbaugh. I really think he's a great coach. As much as you hate for me to admit, I think he's a great NFL coach. I think you're giving him offense that McDaniels is going to have an offense that he's going to be able to maximize. And if that protection can hold up for Herbert, I think he's having a really great year. The defense is, I'd have to say, average to maybe slightly better than average, but with an offense that I believe can have a high firepower, that will help them into a division, winning the division in a relatively weaker division. Chris, what are your thoughts on the AFC West?
Looking at this division, I'm high on kind of the teams that did well last year. I think it's going to kind of bleed into this year. I do still think Denver is going to be the top dog. I like what Sean Payton's going to be able to do with this team and what he's already shown that he's done. And I think he's that kind of guy that once he establishes his system and once he gets where he's at, he's just going to continue to contend year in and year out. He's obviously found the quarterback that he likes, that he knows can win games for him. And I think that Bo Nix is only going to continue to improve. They added him a weapon in Jalen Waddle. They still have Cortland Sutton. So they have the big target. They have the speed option. And then they still have a very, very stout defense. And I think that this team is going to be the top dog in the AFC West for some time with the coach that they possess and with the young core talent that they have. I do like Denver, and I'm very high on them going into the next season. So I have Denver winning this division. I have the Chargers, as long as they stay healthy on that offensive line, as long as they're able to keep all their starting pieces on the field, I do think that they're going to be a scary team as well. I have them finishing second in this division. I think Omarion Hampton's going to have a breakout season. From everything I've heard, the guys look like an absolute monster so far in training camp and this preseason, and I'm excited to see what he does this year. I think Justin Herbert with Mike McDaniel is going to be hopefully putting up, I would say, winning the more important games. That's kind of the big thing on Justin Herbert. We already know he's a good quarterback. It's just he can't seem to win and play at the high level in these big important games. So can Mike McDaniel help him do that? We shall see. I have it listed as Denver, the Chargers. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to get back into that form that they've had in the past. I think they're still dealing with a lot of, miscommunications, some issues, and maybe just not having that formula work as much as they've had in the past. So I see them kind of staying around where they've been, maybe not as bad as last year, but still not very good, as well as the Raiders finishing last, too young, too much turnover. I don't see them piecing it all together, so I have them finishing.
Awesome. Now pivoting into the NFC, we're going to go right into it. The NFC East. Who do you have winning that division? And Philly, over the past few years, has kind of had a chokehold on that division. Do you think it remains that way? Chris?
I don't. I think Philly is going to be dealing with a lot of, identity issues this year. I think they're going to be trying to, maintain the form that they've had, and I think they're kind of breaking off piece by piece. I think it all kind of, the stars aligned for them to win that Super Bowl a few years ago, and I think they're just going to continue to kind of decline. Everybody's getting a little bit older. They're just going to continue to kind of fall off. You lost A.J. Brown already. There's already been issues within that locker room. I think that Jalen Hurts, I just see him taking a step back. I don't see him playing at a high level. I think he's going to kind of get exposed a little bit. And I think everyone knows that he's not as talented as that team ultimately is. While I do think he's a good leader, I don't think he's very, very talented. So I think, contrary to what I've said in a couple of episodes, that leading up to this, I have had a change of opinion. I do find Dallas to be a more likable team to win this division. I think they do have a lot of core pieces on that defense that's going to elevate that defense to a level that we haven't seen from them lately. And I do think that if they can stay healthy on the offensive side of the football, they are very scary. They have George Pickens, they have CeeDee Lamb, they have an experienced Dak Prescott, and that's an offense that we know can put up points. So if that defense, with the addition of Quinnen Williams, Rashawn Gary, Caleb Downs, and Barham, the linebacker that they've got that's been showing out so far in the preseason, I think this is a scary team. So it could be kind of reminiscent to the Dallas we saw when Zeke and Dak came in their rookie seasons and went out and won that division. So I like what they have. I have Dallas finishing first, Philly finishing second. I have the Giants finishing third, and the Commanders finishing last in that division. I don't see Jaden Daniels coming back very well. I think he's only hurt himself, and I think the outside noise is going to get to him too much, and that team is not going to play very well.
Love it. Ryan, what is your insight on the NFC East?
I'm going to keep mine pretty short and simple. I do believe Cowboys have everything they need this year to win it all. I think if it's not going to happen this year, then we might not see it for a while. This is the best the Cowboys have been on paper, so it all just depends on what they're going to do. I think you see the Eagles losing pieces, and I think they will take a step down. And you also see the Giants, who have the pieces that just need to be healthy, take a step up this year. And I do think the addition of Stephon Diggs to the Commanders is going to be a big help for Jaden Daniels. I think that you're going to see the Commanders, I have taking a bigger jump than Chris might expect. But I do have my division with the Cowboys on top. I got Giants at number 2 and the Commanders at 3 and Philly coming in at 4. So we'll see what happens at the end of the year.
Love it. I got to agree with you guys. I do think Dallas has very elite offensive weapons. I think defensively last year, I think they averaged over 30 points or right at 30 points a game. I think you're only going to see a progression from that with all their additions. I'm really excited to see what that defense does because we know what the offense is capable of. So if that defense can really come out there and make big, big leaps from last year, I think they win this division. And I think they win this division pretty handily. The Eagles, I do think they're spiraling. They've lost pieces. I think Hurts is a good leader. I think they have good weapons on that team, but they also have lost a lot of good weapons. And they've gotten older. And so I do think that they do take a step back. I'm a little torn about the Giants. I think the addition of Harbaugh is going to be very, very helpful for them. I also love that D-line. The whole defense as a whole, maybe not entirely sold on it, but the D-line with Shelby Harris, Darius Alexander, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, and then the addition of rookie Arvell Reese. I think that's a very scary defensive front. So I'm really excited to see what they can do.
They're making Arvell off ball.
Yep, that's what I've heard. And I've heard he's done well at Arvell. I do believe that they're going to utilize all those big, scary guys. These are all freak athletes.
Yeah, you send them all. Oh my gosh.
It's scary. They're all very, very big, but they're all very quick.
They're all freaks.
Athletic. So I'm excited to what they do, and that's going to help that secondary. So because of that, I do have Dallas winning the division. I think the Giants, Jackson Dart, and the offense can do just enough because that defense is going to carry them into a lot of games. So I have the Giants finishing second. I do have the Eagles finishing third. I think they take a step back, but not that big of a step. And I do think a lot of outside noise and a lot of outside factors are going to go into the Commanders season, and they're going to struggle early, middle, and late. So I do think that they will be one of the first teams to pick in the next year's draft, as they will not finish well this year. Now pivoting into a division that's kind of flipped over the past probably 5 to 7 years, the NFC North. Who do you guys have winning it, and what's like one big storyline you're kind of looking forward to?
I'm looking at, this is probably the best division we have in football, right around the NFC West. But I do think that this division is very deep. I think every one of these teams is very, very talented, and can play at a high level. I know the Vikings are trying to find their identity, but with the addition of Kyler Murray, I think that they can do solid, especially with a Brian Flores defense that we know has come out hot in the previous season. So I do like Detroit to win this. I think they're going to try to get back on top. I really love Dan Campbell as a coach. I know he's one of those guys that's going to go and do whatever it takes to win football games. And I just think Detroit's kind of pissed off from the last year. They felt like they kind of got screwed out of a lot of games, and they could have easily have been up there competing for a Super Bowl. So I like Detroit. I think they're going to get back on top. They have so many solid pieces, and Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson, Sam Laporta, all these young guys, and Jared Goff is a really talented quarterback. I think the guy is experienced. He knows how to lead the team, and I like him a lot. I think my order is going to go. I think Chicago is going to get the second spot. I really like what they're doing with their young players. I think they're only continuing to improve. I think that defense is gonna continue to get better. I really like their young offense and their scheme that they were running last year. I think it only made everybody play at a high level, and it's only going to continue to get better in year two. So I like Chicago taking the second spot. I think Green Bay is going to hover. You're going to see really good games. You're going to see some off games. Green Bay is kind of a weird team to evaluate. They can always win, but they seem to be able to lose games pretty easily. And I don't think Jordan Love has maybe cracked the code just yet. I think he's talented. I don't think he's cracked the code yet. And I think they lost a few key pieces for this offseason. And then I think Vikings will finish fourth. I don't think they have the quarterback play yet to put them over the edge. I think it's possible they could finish higher, but I have them at 4.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on the NFC North?
I agree with Chris. I have the Lions on top at number 1. I do think number 2 is going to fall to the Bears. I think Caleb Williams, he's not there yet. I think he is definitely their guy, and he's definitely the team that the Bears or people need to worry about in the future. But this year, I don't think he's the guy, or I don't think this is the team that can do something crazy. I think you have the Vikings. It all depends on Kyler Murray and what Kyler Murray we see. We've seen him in Arizona play really well, and we've seen him in Arizona play really, really bad. So we don't really know what Kyler Murray is going to come. This is a new, fresh start for him. So it'll be interesting to see how he takes advantage of that. But I don't see Jordan Love as the guy that could take the Packers to the promised land. I think the Packers are not where they need to be as a franchise as far as talent, and that's why I have them finishing 3rd. I have the Vikings finishing 4th, the Lions finishing 1st, and the Bears 2nd. That was all out of order.
That's fine. We got you.
Yeah. I think that this is the most talented division. I think top to bottom, all these teams, if they were in a separate division, they could make the playoffs. I think they're all teams that could at least win a game in the playoffs. So I think it's a very scary one. The team I have finishing first is going to be the Bears. I think they have a very solid young receiver core. Their O-line is very good. I think Caleb Williams going into his second year of Ben Johnson's system. I think he's going to make another leap. I do think Ben Johnson is a great coach. I think he's a great offensive mind, and they've already shown that they can go out and win 11, 12 games, and I think it's going to be a close one between them and the Lions in terms of who wins the division. I think it's also going to be a battle for 3rd between the Vikings and Packers. I think Jordan Love has a lot to prove. I do think that they have very talented players on that team. I think their coaching has been shaky at times, but it has also been very good. So there's not a game that they're out of, but there's also not a game that they're guaranteed. So it should be very, very interesting. So I have Chicago at 1, Detroit at 2, the Packers at 3, and the Vikings at 4. But with that said, I do think the Vikings are better than any team in the NFC South. And to pivot on that, the NFC South. What are your thoughts? Because looking from the outside in and really from the inside out, it's kind of a dumpster fire. It's kind of who is the least worst. So, Chris, what are your thoughts going into the season?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the worst divisions in the NFL. I think you're looking at them top to bottom. You can't ultimately pick out a team that you think could contend against any of the top teams in either division or in either conference. So when I look at this division, I have to break it down by, what am I seeing from last year? What were the trends? What are key players, key pieces? And ultimately, we did see some fight out of Carolina at the end of that season, and they look like they could contend and play a little bit with some of the top teams, and they have some grit to them. So I am still keeping an eye on Carolina. I am high on that team. But this division, ultimately, I see playing out as I'm very high. I've made this clear in the last couple of episodes. I'm very high on the Saints. I think the Saints are a team to look out for. I think they have a lot of good young talent. I do know that we will be missing out on seeing Jordan Tyson for some time, but Tyler Shaw, Chris Olave, that offense looked really good last year at the end, and they were able to piece it together and win some games coming down the stretch. I like what they're going to be able to do with Kellen Moore at the helm, and I think that defense is only going to continue to get better. I really, really think that the Saints can be the top team in this division and get off to a hot start and maybe win some games to elevate them within that division. So I have the Saints finishing first. I have the Carolina Panthers a close second. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finishing third. I don't think Todd Bowles is the guy. I really am not high on him as their coach, but I do think with Baker Mayfield and that team, they're going to be able to win some games. And unfortunately for Dez, I have the Falcons finishing last. The quarterback play scares the hell out of me, man. I don't think anybody's going to be able to get the job done for you guys. I think you're going to be out looking for another quarterback next year in the draft because all the guys you have now are suspect. So it is to be seen. You have a lot of talented young players. You have a lot of core pieces that are solid. I think it's going to come down to quarterback play, and I think it's going to let you down all year round, and nobody's going to be able to find their rhythm. So I have the Falcons finishing fourth.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on the NFC South?
I think in the NFC South, you have 4 teams that all think everyone in the division stinks and that they're the best team. But in reality, I think the Saints are the only team that can win this division. I think you have second, the Buccaneers. I can't count Baker Mayfield out. He is a dog. I think the loss of Mike Evans, though, does hurt the Buccaneers, but I don't think they take that far of a step back. The Panthers, I think Bryce Young has shown why he should be the starter, but I don't think he's shown why the Panthers are a playoff team quite yet. And I think that, like Chris said, the Falcons quarterback room is a disaster, and it scares everybody. I think it scares the fan base. I think it scares the whole NFL. I think there are other quarterback rooms that are worse, hence Miami. But I do believe that you can only rely on
Bijan Robinson?
Yes, you can't rely on Bijan Robinson to do the whole thing for you. And I think that's what the Falcons expect this year, and I think it's going to be interesting to watch what happens.
Yeah, I think the NFC South for probably the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, has clearly been the worst division. I think year in, year out, it's a team who's winning 9 games who wins the division, and that is very, very, very poor. Sometimes it means just some parity, but that's not what it is. They're all bad. I do think going into this year that the Buccaneers, year to year, are the most consistent team. I think they have slowly been digressing. So what you see is kind of what you get. So I do think the Buccaneers are going to take another step back. Not a big step, but another one. I think the Falcons' quarterback play is atrocious. It is unreliable. You're quite literally relying on 2 injury-prone lefties and an undrafted rookie. Because it's just a mess. I think there's great pieces. I think the O-line's great. I think that receiving core is very good. I think Bijan Robinson is one of the best running backs in the NFL. I think the defense last year showed great strides, but a big issue is our 2 star edge rushers. One is out for the entirety of the year, and the other one is suspended 8 games. Therefore, I don't see much of a threat from Atlanta at all. I think that the Panthers won the division last year. I like Bryce Young a lot. I like a lot of those young pieces. I think defensively they're okay. They did lose a couple key pieces defensively, but ultimately I think a lot of it is on progression. If you look at the grand scheme of the Saints last year, they were the worst team in that division overall, but they were the team that progressed the most. Tyler Shaw, he went 5-4 as a starter. I think he has very good pieces around him. I think he blends well with Kellen Moore, that head coach. And in a division without a dominant team, and New Orleans with a offense that is getting better and better with a young quarterback, very good pieces like Olave, and a defense that was rated 9th, I believe, in total defense last year, the Saints will win this division. So I have the Saints winning the division. Carolina Panthers finishing second, the Buccaneers finishing third, and the Atlanta Falcons finishing fourth.
Look at that, Des. Great minds think alike, buddy. I like it.
Yep.
I think we do have our best quarterback. He is the president of football operations, Matt Ryan. That's the best quarterback in that building. So now going to the division of the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks. What are we expecting out of the NFC West, Chris?
You're going to expect great football from the NFC West. I mean, this is 3 absolute powerhouse teams that exist in this division, teams that could win and beat anybody in the NFL. I'm looking at, the Rams have done a fantastic job of bringing in talent to put them over the edge and be able to beat the Seahawks in a big showdown like what we saw last year. They went out and got Myles Garrett, probably the best defensive player in the NFL. They're looking to try to bring back Aaron Donald, who was the best defensive player when he left. Just his presence on that defensive line is scary for every single offensive line that they would face. So that defense is looking to make big strides this year and just be even scarier as a whole. And then in the offense, under Matt Stafford is going to be lethal. You just know when he takes the field that they can score at will, especially with Puka Nacua on that receiving core. But ultimately, I'm going to kind of talk about what Des said with trends and kind of basing it off last year. Seattle's system, they played not great and they were still beating teams really, really bad. It was like watching a Nick Saban Alabama team in college football when they wouldn't play that great of football, but they would still beat teams to a pulp. So I really think that they've developed a great system under McDonald, and I'm very high on Seattle again going into this year, and I don't see that changing. I know they lost Kenneth Walker, but they brought in Jadarian Price, a young guy, to take his role as well as maintaining Charbonnet. I think that defense is going to stay elite, and I have the Seattle Seahawks staying on top with them retaining, to me, the best player on the offensive side of the ball in Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I have Seattle at my top spot. I have the Rams finishing a close second at 2. I have San Fran at 3. They're still going to be a great team. They're still going to win 10-plus games, barring injuries. They'll be at 3. And then I have the Arizona Cardinals, who will take a big leap. I think you're going to see a lot of better offensive play for them this year, but they aren't ready for that division yet. They'll be 4.
Ryan, what are your thoughts about the NFC West?
I think Chris is right with the Cardinals. I think they are going to take a big leap. I think they're going to be able to edge out those games where they play teams that are worse. I think they're going to win games against those medium average teams. I think the juggernauts of the NFL, I think they're not ready for yet. So I do think they're going to do a lot better than what people are thinking. The 49ers, it's always been this way, and it still will remain this way. It's all going to come down to how Purdy plays. I've seen Purdy look really good, and they blow out teams, and I've seen him play really bad, and they lose. I think between him and Christian McCaffrey, if he could stay healthy, they have a
And
shot.
Kittle.
I think it's a small shot, but all you need is a chance. I do, however, have the Rams finishing first in the division, followed right behind by one game, or maybe even a tie, is the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks shown why they deserve to be on the top last season. I don't think they take a step back. I don't think the Rams take a step back either. I think you have JSN being one of the top receivers, and the Rams realizing that they need someone who could guard him. And I do believe it was Trent McDuffie that they traded for in the offseason.
Yes.
And that's
They actually
probably
got 2
a guy
Kansas
that
City
you
secondaries.
yes, that's probably the guy that you would want to be able to guard those top receivers. So I think they got the defense to keep up and win the games against Seattle. And I think if you can get Aaron Donald to come back, even if it's just to play in those big games, I don't see Aaron Donald playing a full 16-game season or whatever. But I do believe towards the end of the year, you're going to see Aaron Donald sign and stay with the Rams throughout the postseason. So I do think the Rams are going to edge out the Seahawks for that first place spot.
Yeah, I think the NFC West is it's pretty straightforward. Cardinals, I do think they're going to make some offensive strides. I think eventually in this year, Beck's gonna
Brissett.
no, the guy behind Brissett.
It's not Minshew, is it?
Yeah, Minshew or Beck are going to come in for Brissett eventually. I think we're going to see Jeremiah Love help that offense kind of boost forward. You'll see the progression of it, but like Chris said, they aren't ready for that division. I think the 49ers are not as talented as the other two, and they are going to fight off some injuries more than likely. You can go through all those conspiracy of the power, whatever, all those practice fields, whatever the injury bug they have. It's just year after year. Nonetheless, they're going to be a very good team. I think they are going to make the playoffs. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the Rams, and it's going to come down to the Seahawks. And it's going to come down to who wins. I think that division is going to be decided by one game. And looking at it, I think they match up very well from receiver to corner, corner to receiver, D-line to O-line, back and forth. And I think it comes down to being who's the better quarterback. I really do. Who's the better quarterback? Who's the better coach? I think coaching-wise, they match up well. Quarterback, I'm going to give it to Matt Stafford. I think he's better. I think it's clear he's better. And I think it's going to come down to those last-minute plays, last-minute games, and the Rams edge out the Seahawks late in the season to win the division. So I have the Rams at first. I have the Seahawks finishing second, the 49ers finishing third, and the Cardinals making big steps but finishing fourth. Now, we're going to quickly go through our predictions for the Super Bowl. Who do you think wins the NFC? Who do you think wins the AFC? And who wins the Super Bowl? Chris?
NFC, my pick is going to be, this is tough. I'm gonna say that Seattle goes back, plays in the NFC Championship. Believe it or not, I'm thinking that a team that's going to make it far is a team that I said was overhyped. It is going to be Dallas. So I think Dallas is going to be in that hunt. But I do have Seattle winning the NFC, going back to the Super Bowl, playing against the Houston Texans, where we get to see top young defenses battle it out against offenses that can play at a high level, and see if the quarterbacks can elevate and win the game. So I like the Seattle Seahawks versus the Houston Texans for the Super Bowl, because I think the Texans, if that offense can just be normal and not turn the ball over, they're going to ride to the Super Bowl. So those are my two teams facing it off.
And who wins it?
I don't think Seattle's going to repeat. I think D'Amico and Houston get it done, and I like the Texans holding the Lombardi at the end of the year.
Ryan, what is your Super Bowl prediction?
I have the Rams with Aaron Donald coming back and Myles Garrett in that force. I have the Rams in the Super Bowl. I think once the Rams win it, Matthew Stafford will end his career on a high note and retire. Unfortunately, I do have them playing Buffalo, and I do have them beating Buffalo. As much as it pains me to say that, I think the Bills are in a great spot with a new culture to make the Super Bowl this year. I just think they are not there yet. I think I can definitely see them winning in the next 2 or 3 years, but as of right now, I have them losing to the Rams.
Yeah. I think my Super Bowl prediction, it comes down to the NFC. I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC. I think they edge out the Seahawks slightly. So I do have the Rams making the Super Bowl. And as much as I do want to say the Bills, and I do love the newness and maybe the refresh will help boost something, I do think Houston has the pieces. I think, like Chris alluded to, if that offense can just get down the field, at worst, punt and get field goals, that defense is going to carry them very far. In the Super Bowl, I think that it is going to be crucial that that offense finds their groove. And I think the Rams have the previous success. My brain does tell me that if going into the season, that the Houston Texans offense isn't semi-electric or showed spurts of electric, that the Rams will easily win that Super Bowl. But if that Texans offense can show that they have progressed since last year, and Stroud can show that he's progressed since last year, I have the Texans winning it.
If. A lot of ifs there.
So, despite the ifs, my prediction is the Texans will make a big jump offensively and win the Super Bowl. All right, now we're going to really quick. I want you guys to give me one college football hot take and one NFL hot take. Say the hot take, give a sentence to back it up, and we'll move on to the next person. Chris, what are your hot takes?
My hot take will be you will have an all Big Ten national championship. And you said an NFL hot take?
Ooh.
I'll just say Dallas makes it to the NFC championship for the first time since the 90s.
Love it. Ryan, what are your hot takes?
My hot take is Arizona State wins the Big 12. And then my NFL hot take is that the Indianapolis Colts win their division.
Wow. Love it. My college hot take is that Alabama loses at least 5 games. I think that they have a young core early on, and they may drop one. And at the back end of that season, they play a lot of talented teams. So I have them losing at least 5 games, if not more. And my NFL hot take is Cade Klubnik leads all rookies in wins this year. I think he is going to be the one to get the most starts as a rookie. Therefore, I do think that he'll have the most wins. Will it be 3 or 4? More than likely. But I think that'll be more than the rest. So, as always, make sure you follow us on all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify. Make sure you go to theupsports.com, vote for our top 25 poll. And as always, you can catch us on the Up.
See y'all, everybody. Huge.